mad ideology. It's a racist ideology, which was inspired by the Nazis. The founding fathers were inspired by the Nazis. You can Google on your phone and you can, the founding fathers praised the Nazis, racial superiority. And you see, there's a negative nationalism, there's a positive nationalism. You must distinguish between the two. I can inspire my people by saying, look, you were a great nation, let's now get back again. But if I say you were a great nation, but because of these other human communities, you could not reach the top, so shift the hatred towards them, there is always bloodshed.
Prime Minister, I'm sure your counterpart in New Delhi would disagree, but if Prime Minister Modi wants to share his own views, we would be more than happy to travel to New Delhi and interview him on that.
Listen, I would love to debate with Narendra Modi on TV.
That would
I would
be
love
great.
to talk.
But you know, before we organize this debate, and by the way, RT would be happy to moderate it, me personally, but
it would be so good for over 1 billion people on the subcontinent if we can resolve our differences through a debate rather than through...
That would be amazing. But let me ask specifically about Pakistan, because this year marks the 75th anniversary of your country coming into being, and the figure of Muhammad Ali Jinnah still looms large with his philosophy of marrying modernity with traditional grassroots culture. And I think it's not only in Pakistan, but I see this philosophy coming to prominence all around the world, even in Russia. I think Vladimir Putin subscribes to a similar brand of enlightened conservatism. When you see progressive things around the world, you benefit from them, but you stay true to your sort of your inner core, your collective soul. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's becoming so popular around the world? Why is it so appealing?
Because whenever you try and superimpose another culture on a nation, it doesn't work. You know, colonialism, what did it do? What the colonialists created was a thin lot of people who imitated the colonialists, who in Pakistan would be called the westernized elite. But there was a big gap between them and the rest of the population. So nations evolve organically. They borrow from all over the world, but they are rooted in their own culture and history. If you cut that off, I mean, it has severe consequences all over the world. When you cut off a country from its roots, a nation, and try and ape another culture, they become neither one thing or the other. In Urdu, we say neither a titar or a bater, neither quail or a partridge. What has happened after colonialism is that you have a tiny set of elite which pretends that they're Western, and their gap between them and the rest becomes wider and wider. It's what happened in Iran. The Iranian Revolution was that the elite of the Shah of Iran became cut off from the mass of the population. So there was a huge reaction against it. In Pakistan, what we are trying to do is to obviously learn from all advanced societies, and right now, the nation we can learn most from is China, because if my main emphasis is to raise people out of poverty, no human society has achieved what China has done. So therefore, we learn from everyone, but we should be rooted in our own culture, history, religion.
China played a subtle but I think very significant role in facilitating Russian-Pakistani exchanges, and I know that recently while visiting Beijing you suggested that Islamabad can act as a mediator between Beijing and Washington. What makes you believe, I'm sorry for being blunt, but what makes you believe that mediation is even possible? Because as far as I understand the American psyche, they are not after understanding, they are not after negotiating on the level playing field, they are after preserving dominance. Would China agree to that?
But look, the America I know is very diverse. Any country, for instance, what is happening in India is not what Indians are like. This is not the India of Nehru and Gandhi. This is the India of Narendra Modi. A tiny, highly organized elite has taken over India, just like the Nazis took over Germany. So, you know, at a given point, there is this extreme nationalism which has been released in the US, and they want this dominance. But surely there are sensible voices in the US saying that conflict is where you are heading. Conflict, Cold War is not the way. There's another way. where it could be win and win for everyone. And I certainly believe that the cooperation between China and the United States, and even for that matter Russia, will benefit mankind much more than a conflict.
I wish I had more time. I have many more questions, but let me ask the final one. And it's a bit cheesy, but I ask it sincerely because you've reached the pinnacle of your sporting career by giving your country its first and only victory in the Cricket World Cup. How do you hope to be remembered? What do you want to give to your people as the Prime Minister?
That's a simple answer. I would love to emulate China in terms of bringing people out of poverty. Two things I want. One thing is if I can bring people out of poverty, but related to that is rule of law. Human societies are defined by two great things: rule of law and a welfare society. A society that is humane and just and looks after its people who are not so privileged, who are poor. And so that's how I want to be remembered. If I can bring rule of law in Pakistan and raise our people out of poverty on the lines what China has done, I would be able to meet my maker with confidence.
Well, Prime Minister, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. I hope your team receives as much hospitality as we've benefited from here. Best of luck in Moscow and best of luck for your endeavors.
I'm looking forward to my trip to Moscow.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. Hope to see you again next week on Worlds Apart.